Saylor wants to propose the US government to go and buy 20% of the Bitcoin network. Well, he didn't do too well with the Microsoft pitch, given that Vanguard is the largest shareholder of Microsoft. They said no. But what are we going to talk about today? Well, I'm going to break down a key level that needs to be taken by Bitcoin today. And it's going to be from a day trading perspective. More importantly, for the holders. I've got to identify certain levels that the holders need to be aware of with Bitcoin, because if Bitcoin is going to start doing its own thing right now, short term, we're going to see some nice movement in Bitcoin to reclaim that 100K mark. So if you are new, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you stick around for that, as I'll be doing that at halfway through the video. Let's break everything down and what we can expect going into the day. Now, just to put things into perspective, yesterday I set out some projections for the Platinum members. And if you're not a Platinum member already, get yourself involved. Everything is in the description of this video, where you get to take advantage of these sort of setups. Yesterday, we were looking for Bitcoin to make a move around the 96,900 region to try and claim out the 98,144 as the first target, which is the 800 EMA, and of course, claim the 98,827 zone. With the good success of that move from yesterday, you did see Bitcoin breaking up towards that range, and that was in the New York session from the 96 zone. You can see right there, and then they made the claim all the way up towards the 98,712. Didn't quite get the actual zone that I wanted, but I'll take the 98,827. Missed it off by just under $100. But happy days. A lot of dudes made money yesterday in Bitcoin. And something I just want to draw your attention to as well. As a Platinum member, you'll get access to the Market Watch, and this has been my Market Watch since last Sunday. So on the Sunday, I'd like to project out what I expect Bitcoin to do throughout the rest of the week. And what we wanted to see Bitcoin do was take the claim to the downside, break lower towards the 91,200 to then try and make the reversal back up and try and claim the 105 zone. That's what I was expecting from Bitcoin. And that could be something that actually happens, ladies and gentlemen. So the guys that have been playing the swing trades, they are now technically in profit, given that Bitcoin is sat in between this 98,500 zone. Quickly going into Bitcoin price action, you can see it's at the 98,334, and we did see a take of the nearly the 99,000 just a few moments ago. Now, what's fueling Bitcoin's move to the upside? Well, we've got articles coming out like this. If you just have a look, you've got Michael Saylor saying that he thinks that the US should buy 20% of the Bitcoin network. That's excitable. Going into the actual article, it says here that Utah is on the verge of becoming the first US state to adopt Bitcoin as a reserve asset, which the HB 230 bill is advancing through to the Senate. Now, we know it's not going to see that much of a resistance because Trump is trying to make USA the spot for cryptocurrency. But Michael Saylor does have a point. If he does actually manage to convince the US to pick up 20% of the Bitcoin network, there was a bill that was put out to try and purchase 200,000 Bitcoin every single year for the next 5 years until they equate to the sum of 1 million Bitcoin. Well, in 5 years' time, where do you think the actual ETF's going to be? Looking at the ETF just to see where we are, you can see we're still at the 586, 747,000. Scrolling down, we're not really seeing any activity on the blockchain itself, other than the previous day we saw BlackRock buy another 227 Bitcoin. So it's not really anything I'm too concerned about. But when we go into Bitcoin's price action right now, here is where we start to really need to start paying attention to things. Bitcoin's made the move up towards the psychological ranges, and that's usually something that you want to pay attention to. Now, if you are new and you haven't done so, go and take the free course where I talk about the importance of the psychological ranges, okay? And the psychological ranges take the first high and the first low that's formed at the start of a trading week. Usually what happens is when price moves away from that point, there's going to be a time when it actually comes back towards that point, because when it gets towards that point, they usually mimic the same behavior. In other words, they sold off from the psychological ranges, now they made their way away from it. To get a feel for what's going on with cryptocurrency and to assume there's a justified reason of price going higher, you need to understand what the big money is doing. As it stands right now, Walmart has given a warning that things ain't looking too good from a consumer point of view. It says here that Walmart profit forecast falls short on economic uncertainty. Why is that? Well, the PPI, came in, which is the cost of goods and services. That came in higher last week. You saw inflation year on year and of course month on month, and the core CPI came in higher. So we know that inflation is a bit of a problem, and maybe the consumer is starting to see that it's going to be a problem for them later on. So with Walmart not hitting their earnings and their estimates, it's kind of giving the marketplace the idea that maybe things ain't going to be looking too good. That explains why Goldman believes that there could be a correction coming into play. But when you go and look at the stock market, you might say to yourself, hold on a second, momentum. Let's be honest now. Look at where the NASDAQ is in relation to everything. It's at its all-time highs. What's wrong with a little bit of a correction? There's nothing wrong with it. But what you've got to take into consideration is this. Where are we in relation to bonds and stocks? They usually have an inverse relationship. Sometimes when the bonds go up, stocks go down because investors are seeking the safety of the US bonds. Sometimes you see the stock market going up and the bonds really not doing anything, which means that investors are seeking high risk. But now what we're seeing is stocks are overly valued in comparison to the bonds. Right? And that ratio is showing true because the stock market's not really clearing its highs, especially the NASDAQ, but you do have Nvidia declaring its earnings going into next week. So that could be the reason why NASDAQ is holding out. But going over into the bonds market, you can see the bonds are actually starting to do okay. They managed to stay above that 100 mark, and they are now trading at the 101 region. So it's a good thing that we're seeing the bonds starting to climb up because investors are like, okay, if we're going to be seeing the interest rates being cut in the future, we need to start locking in yields. Now, I've been building a portfolio or an ETF portfolio, and I deposited $10,000, and I've been distributing it across several various ETF markets. I'm heavily weighted in the bond total market, or the BMD, should I say, the Vanguard one, and I've got a Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF. Now, the reason why these two, well, mainly this one is doing well is because investors are plowing into stocks right now because they're looking for earnings per share. They're looking for a rate of return. And as you can see that most of the actual stock earnings that have come out, 77% of those companies have gone through and smashed their expectations. But when you've got big heavyweights like Walmart coming in and saying it's not looking too good, there could be a little bit of a rotation happening where money will be coming out of Walmart and effectively going into other stocks that are actually performing well. Now, this ETF portfolio here is something that I'm going to be breaking down to the Platinum members and giving them exactly what I'm planning on doing with it. I am looking to add to these positions and include additional ETFs because of what my expectation is regarding interest rates. I believe that the Fed is going to cut the interest rates, which naturally is going to force investors to get into the bonds so that they can lock in a good yield at these current levels, which is 4.264% on the 2-year. And then, of course, on the 10-year, you got 4.49%. Now, again, this is a bit of a longer term play, and it's on the expectation that I'm going to see the interest rates being cut on the US dollar. That is naturally going to be forcing investors to go into the bonds market so that they can lock in yields at these levels. Now, why is this information important for you? Because it's going to be the reason why investors will go into cryptocurrency. Because if they see investors going into the bonds market, it means that they're seeking low risk. But if the stock market moves at the same time to the upside, then we can then assume maybe cryptocurrency is just going to follow through. But earlier I said that Bitcoin's doing its own thing. Why? Because of this. It's the offers. So Bitcoin is more than likely going to continue higher because there is a batch of offers around the 100K mark. It might not happen today. It could happen going into the weekend. But the speed that Bitcoin moves at, especially if they really do want to transact higher, they will move Bitcoin's price to wherever they need it to go. Okay? As you can see that we do have a little bit of dominance on the dollar pulling back ever so slightly. You see on the 15-hour time frame, dollar dominance has been going down lower, and it has actually started to make a little bit of a climb right now just before the market open. However, you've got news announcements coming out later on, which is going to show you the flash manufacturing PMI data for the US dollar. They are expecting an expansion to come into play because it's now coming in, or they're expecting at 51.3. Any reading above 50 will give you expansion in the actual sector itself. But more importantly, we need to be very mindful just in case Trump decides to start talking during the trading day. So again, please be very, very careful when Trump speaks. Now, going over into price action overall, I mean, the trading week itself has been really good. I mean, I haven't traded that much as well. I mean, here is my days. This is my trading. This is my live account. Just I trade on Ninja Trader. It's a live account, so I just refresh that. Okay, get that done. Come on. Yep, there you go. Live account, and this is where I am with my statistics for the week. This week, I didn't really trade too much. I took 14 trades because I like to build certain positions on the NASDAQ, and we made $5,988, and we had a loss of $1.50 for the week. Not bad. That's just a fluke. You know, I just caught the right trades, and you lose $1.50. Not bad. But that's just this week. I haven't traded that much, guys, but we managed to clear out nearly 6K for the week, so that's happy days. when I do return back to the UK, I'll be trading a little bit more and we'll start growing this balance and just see how far we can go with it. Make a withdrawal, keep rinse and repeat basically. That's the idea of it, guys. You want to basically get yourself an account, start with 5-6 grand, same as what I had with this. Start with 5k, build it up, withdraw, start again. It aligns your psychology. It makes sure that you don't take risks that you don't need to be taking, and you're always conscious about having a certain amount of risk every time you use a certain amount of capital. So for me, that's how my psychology works. Now, with that being said, let's going into Bitcoin price action on the daily time frame just to get you guys aligned with what we can expect. Look at where we are, ladies and gentlemen. What did I say to you all last night in the short? The second Bitcoin closes above this 50 EMA, and if it can close above it strongly, we've got ourselves a good chance that the next daily candle needs to show promise of Bitcoin trying to close strongly in this 50 EMA cloud. And I said you need 3 daily candles to close within the upper band of this cloud. This is an area worthy of you potentially taking spot trades. Please take that into consideration. Tomorrow's daily candle will solidify it for us, in the sense that if you start taking spot trades inside of here, you're going to see Bitcoin try and make a nice little move to the upside to potentially claim the 102 zone. It all depends on its ability to move away from this point. This is a critical point for Bitcoin right now because we have managed to come from underneath moving averages, but more importantly, we've come away from all of this treacherous behavior. So today is a very important day for Bitcoin. So what you really need to see Bitcoin doing is staying within the high of this range right here at 98,710, and it needs to close above the final close of this price. So basically Bitcoin needs to stay above 98,305 and see it as an option play. Imagine, as long as Bitcoin stays above 98,305, then we are looking for a good, an extended move further to the upside, because if it can stay away from yesterday's close, the logic says that we are going to be expecting Bitcoin to try and climb up a little bit more. This may be a 2-day event, but you can assume that Bitcoin's going to try and take that claim towards the 100,000 mark. Going into the actual liquidation points, you can see good old liquidations. Mr. Market Maker is gunning for the liquidity. So make sure if you are in a short, just be prepared for some volatility. If you can absorb it, fine. But just get yourself ready, man, because these market makers are going to be coming back for that liquidity and they want to get paid because it's the weekend. So you made it this far. Mad love and respect, guys. Hit the like button and subscribe on the way out. I need to say that just to remind you guys. But more importantly, if Bitcoin can close above the 98,305 today, then we do improve the odds of Bitcoin making moves to the upside going into the weekend. Just make sure that yesterday's close, which is the 98,305, price trades away from it as much as it can today. Get ready for some wild movements, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a good weekend. I'll be tuning into you all on Monday. Mad love and respect. Peace.